before, but there's no harm in repeating it. Given our dusty conditions, spitting morons, overfed pigeons, India may not be the best country for a convertible. However, between seasons, in certain regions of our country, there are these little windows of opportunity where you can actually enjoy open-top motoring. And for times like these, I would rather have a convertible than a hardtop. And with me today is the newest Mini Cooper drop top. This is the second facelift given to the Mini Cooper. Now, who really cares about design changes on a Mini? Do you? If you do, well, the grille is all new. It's got a new single-piece design, looks quite prominent, especially because this crash bar has been painted in body color. And also the grille seems like it sits closer to the ground now. Also, if you look to the sides, the fog lamps have gone missing. You get these air dams or these little crevices in the bumper. And if you are going to be driving this car often in bad weather, ideally don't get a convertible. But if you still do, you might want to opt for the adaptive LED package, because then your headlamps will be upgraded and they will work better in the foggy, rainy, bad weather conditions than the regular headlights that already ship with the car. Other changes include new eyeliners for Mini's cute lamps, which complement the distinctive LED daytime running lights that have thankfully been retained from the outgoing car. I think these black as well as those chrome accents stand out quite nicely on this zesty yellow color, which you can and must choose on this car instead of the whites, the greys and the silvers. Because come on, this is a Mini and this color is exclusive to the convertible. Because this is the Cooper S, there is also the sportier rear diffuser and twin barrel exhaust tips. And yes, it sounds sweet outside and inside. For all those of you who want to flaunt the British connection, there's the Union Jack in the tail lights, and for a lakh of rupees more, you can even have it on the fabric roof. Speaking of, buy this car only if you have a covered parking, because stains on this fabric are hard to get rid of. You get nicer fabrics inside the cabin, of course, and I quite like the new checkered pattern on our test car, which, like the exterior, looks more vibrant than the two black options available otherwise. It also looks a bit more cheerful than the quilted pattern of the outgoing car. It even goes well with the pattern and the textures seen on the dashboard inlays. But the hero of this cabin has to be the big grandma clock inspired center stack. This display with that LED lighting around it for the tachometer and that 8.8-inch screen, which is standard across the range, it looks quite good. As for this infotainment system, well, it is a bit laggy. I think it is running on an older architecture. However, it has updated menus, customizable layouts, also connected features to an extent, and there's Apple CarPlay as well. But if you want CarPlay, you have to shell out 40,000 rupees. And that's over and above the 1.25 lakh rupees that you would have to shell out for the Mini navigation system to have a compatible system with the Apple CarPlay. That's a ridiculous ask in today's times, don't you think? There's a cute digital dash on offer too. Easy to read and displays all the vitals like the speed, revs, fuel, etc. You can also choose a head-up display, but looking at where the instrumentation sits, I honestly don't see the need for one. You can also spec up the audio unit to the 1.25 lakh rupee Harman Kardon speaker system, but honestly I probably wouldn't bother with that, because the sweet hum of this inline-4 engine usually makes me want to keep the audio low. And since this is the only engine on offer, you might have similar thoughts as well, unless of course you are an audiophile. But then again, this is a convertible. No matter where the roof is, you usually hear most of the elements around you, and that is essentially pointing towards the fact that no matter what kind of an audio unit you choose, you may not really be able to appreciate the better clarity that it brings to the table. The roof folds electronically and takes all of 18 seconds to fold down completely and the same time to come up. But just to go nitpicking, it also makes a cracking sound, which, well, makes me skip a heartbeat. You can also have only a part of the roof open if you so wish. Because the roof takes up a lot of space, the boot is only good enough for a carry-on suitcase or a couple of backpacks. The seating is strictly meant for 4, and tall adults go in the front. As with any Mini, the driver's seat is the place to be. And at your disposal, at your command, is the aforementioned 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine, which pushes out about 192 PS of power and 280 Newton meters of torque, which comes in quite quickly. It is an eager motor, it is a quick motor. In our test, it managed to go from 0 to 100 in 7.2 seconds. This is the same engine and configuration as the 2 Series BMW, has similar claimed acceleration times too, but the Mini just feels a bit more eager and the chassis does a lot more justice too. The acceleration feels a lot more dramatic than what these numbers might suggest. The cliched wind in your hair experience and the sweeter sound of this exhaust system, it adds more drama to this performance. And honestly, the 2-litre engine was always the engine to get with the current generation Mini. As a driving enthusiast, I would have really loved to have the manual option available as well, but the 7-speed dual clutch is quite a sweet operator. Yes, this gearbox is a bit slow to respond, especially to downshift, even if you are using the paddle shifters. Speaking of, definitely use these paddle shifters if you want to have the most amount of fun with this particular package. Also, definitely choose the sports transmission. It's an optional extra, but it comes cheaper than the Apple CarPlay and it adds a lot more fun and enthusiasm. It's also a lot more enthusiastic than certain blokes at Mini who decided to change the drive mode names. You had some funky, cool names like the go-kart mode, but what you get now is green, mid, sport. It sounds so pedestrian, but they still do the same thing. The sport mode is of course the mode to be in. That's the only one that really matters with a car like this because it also ensures sharper responses from the powertrain to match the tightness of this chassis. In sport mode, however, the steering feels a bit artificial. It doesn't feel over-assisted, it just feels a bit artificial to give you that directness. I'm not complaining, it's just a matter of getting used to. Yes, the suspension has been made a little softer to make it a little bit more livable, but it hasn't really compromised much on the driving dynamics of this car. Remember, this is not the hardtop. It certainly isn't as rigid, as stiff as the hardtop. But for a convertible, it actually handles just the way a Mini should. Of course, the engine is feeding all the power and torque to a front-wheel drive configuration, but the electronics always ensure that you maintain a tidy line. Yes, under hard acceleration or around extremely tight switchbacks, you will feel that it has a bit of that understeer, that inherent understeer that you get from a front-wheel drive configuration, but it's astonishing how well the electronics work to make sure that you maintain a clean line. The other reason why the suspension has been softened is to make it less noisy over road imperfections, but it is still as unforgiving as a go-kart made for the road. Should you need adaptive suspension to soften things up further, that is an optional extra too. And if you're choosing the convertible over the hardtop, maybe you want to choose that for marginally better comfort. Well, a Mini after all is not about practicality and space and luxury and comfort. If you want those kind of things at this price point, you're better off with something like a GLA. The Mini is about making a statement, and no other Mini Cooper in the family does it better than the convertible, the gorgeous convertible. It is the best looker in the family without really compromising on the taut dynamics that one expects of a Mini Cooper, the ones that really make them so enjoyable and so much fun to drive. Of course, it's got a high asking price, and the endless options list only makes that number so higher. And that is probably the reason why the number of trims on offer, the number of variants on offer, and the sales figures as well have been dwindling in the past few years. But then again, exclusivity does come at a price, and there is absolutely no alternative for the Mini at the moment that could make you think otherwise.